Good evening, welcome to Sapphire City Council. We have a full reminder, if you have a cell phone, to go ahead and mute it or turn it off. It's up to you. We have a full quorum. Our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by our Vice Mayor, Richard Ortega, following by the invocation, which is Councilman Mike Anazola. Would you stand for the pledge and remain standing, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we come before you today and give you thanks for this day which you bestowed upon us, Lord. We ask you to please send your Holy Spirit onto us for this evening tonight, Lord, to make us the right decisions for our community and our citizens, Lord. We pray for all of our department heads, our employees, and everyone here. Lord, we ask you to please hear our prayers tonight and our special intentions. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. Citizen comments on agenda items. I believe I have one. None? And non-agenda? None? Okay. City Council convenes as a Board of Adjustments for a public hearing. Before I get into that, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick, so that when we make a motion, if we could make sure that we spell out the entirety of the motion instead of just going quick. We've had some issues in the past, and so I'd like to try to get that cleared up for the media, and I guess also for staff, so they don't question what we're doing here. So so that's going to give us into City Council convenes as a Board of Adjustments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request by Mr. Green for the Board of Adjustment to approve a variance request to exceed the maximum allowed square footage for metal shipping containers. Mr. Green would like to install over 320 square feet of metal shipping containers at 402 5th Avenue, parcel 104-22-194. The property is zoned C2. Metal storage containers are a permanent use in the C1, C2, and C3 districts. The equivalent of one 320 square foot metal storage container may be established with an approved building permit subject to the following standards. No signage on the containers. Electric and communications may be permitted as part of the building permit. All containers shall be painted and maintained either the primary structure color or a pre-approved earth tone color. Metal storage containers are required to meet all development standards of the zoning district in which they are located, including setbacks. Any deviations from these standards may be approved through the approval of a variance by the Board of Adjustment. Application for any variance to the regulations of this title shall be made to the Board of Adjustment. Applications shall be made on forms prescribed by the Board of Adjustment, and I have those included in your packet, and I have them, I can project them as well. And the Board may prescribe conditions as it deems fully necessary to carry out the provisions and intent of this title. Such conditions applying to a variance may include a time limitation for which the variance shall be valid. Violation of any condition shall render the variance null and void. The evidence that you need to find sufficient to grant this variance is, number one, having to adhere strictly to the letter of this title will cause difficulties and hardships upon the petitioner, which are unnecessary in order to carry out the purpose of this title. Number two, special circumstances are attached to the property covered by the same application that do not apply to other properties in the same zone. Number three, that because of said special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone, and that the granting of the variance is essential to the enjoyment of property possessed by the other properties in the same zone. Number four, the difficulties and hardships were not created by any act of the applicant subsequent to the effective date of the regulation appealed from. Mr. Green has been provided with this information and his documentation is attached. He is also here this evening if you have questions for him. Notification of the variance request was mailed by the Planning and Community Development Department to the property owners within 300 feet. Staff received one response from an adjoining property owner who stated that she is concerned about safety and what it will look like from the highway. Pardon me. She's also concerned about fire hazards. She did not want to give her name or address. Notice of the public hearing was published on September 24th. It is staff's recommendation that the Board of Adjustment deny a variance from zoning ordinance 17.12.250, finding that it does not meet the evidence requirements in section 17.88.040C, numbers 1, 2, or 3. Number 1, Mr. Green has requested 1,280 total square feet of metal shipping containers. He is allowed to have 320 square feet. It is not a minor adjustment to the regulation. Number 2, this property does not have any special circumstances that do not apply to others in the area. And number 3, Mr. Green has not been deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same area. It is the opinion of staff that the ordinance is very clearly written to limit the square footage of metal storage containers. If you will allow me, I will share a map that we'll put up while you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
And Mr. Green is here also.
Okay. Mr. Green, would you like to speak now, or do you want to kind of hear what we're going to kind of, you'd like to speak? Okay, would you come on up to the podium, please?
And this is his map that he provided, and here is his site plan, and you have that in your packet as well.
Mayor, I had a question, Jamie.
Sure.
If this were allowed, would he still meet all the setback requirements on that lot?
He has 3 feet and 7 feet. He could probably fit them in if he was very careful about the measurements,
So
yes.
it could be done. Okay, thank you.
Oh, good evening. I think you all know me, Green's Furniture over there. This year I purchased my brother Tom Green's appliance business, and he stored appliances inside the showroom floor in boxes. And I need that space to display more furniture and more appliances. Just through nominal digital marketing, I've already seen quite an uptick in business. Once I get this finished, then remodeling, and I switch over to brand source marketing, I expect my business to double overnight or maybe even triple. The customer will be able to purchase online on my website, pay for it and pick it up. I'll be advertising the Globe, Wilcox, Duncan, West Clifton, Morenci, Lordsburg, and Silver City, and Sun sites. So I anticipate having a lot of online purchases. And to do that, to increase that business, I need to have storage for appliances. Right now, I'm barely getting by with what I have. I need more storage right now, but I really need the storage bad just to store appliances as they come in. We placed a 55-piece order last week or up 2 weeks ago, and it just won't have room to put it anywhere. So if I want to grow the business, I need to have the storage place to put appliances in boxes to store them so we can make the business grow. So that's really what I need to do. We'll be painting the Conex boxes, if they're not already, or Navajo white on the outside. Should look nice in the neighborhood. I think the property's already zoned commercial. So any questions?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
David, I think in the information that you gave us, you'd indicated that this would probably only need to take place for about 2 years.
Yeah, after 2 years, I anticipate being able to build a warehouse.
You're pretty confident you could do that?
Yeah.
in that-
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure after 2 years, we'll be in position to build a warehouse. There's business out there. I don't know how much tax revenue you guys get from Home Depot appliance sales or from Valley appliance sales, but probably not much. So it'd be a, new revenue stream for the city or a sales tax. And it'll bring more people into the valley too. Any questions? Any answers?
Anybody have any questions?
That's Steve.
Well, I do have some issues with it. There's not a better use of the property because all it's done so far is grow weeds. And I hate to tell somebody who's trying to grow their business, no, we're not interested in that, because we are. I also don't like to go against the commission or the staff in their recommendation, because they've put a lot more time into it than I have. And I can't, I have a hard time going through you have to do these things that, I mean, Jamie, could you read those to me real quick? Because
Do what now?
I'm asking Jamie to read me the.
Yeah, let
you
me
must
ask a
do-
question of Jamie, and also, who's in charge of planning and zoning and permits? Walmart has 30 Connex boxes on their property down there. Did they apply
Actually,
for permits?
Actually, they have 31. I just counted them.
They did apply for permits?
31.
Okay, good.
Yes, so the Walmart are temporary. Mr. Green is asking for his to be permanent, and the council may set a time limit on their variance if they grant one. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your decision. So did you want me to read the requirements again?
Yeah, you said we had to
Sure.
meet these 3 or 4. Three, is it?
Sure, and
And I'm sorry, I didn't bring my iPad.
Sure, and as far as my staff opinion, what my staff opinion is, I've read the code and this is what it says. You're the deciding body, so by all means, don't feel that we're adversarial. We're working together for the best solution. So don't worry about that. Number 1, having to adhere strictly to the letter of this title will cause difficulties and hardships upon the petitioner, which are unnecessary in order to carry out the purposes of this title. Number 2, special circumstances are attached to the property covered by the same application that do not apply to other properties in the same zone. Number 3, that because of said special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone, and that the granting of the variance is essential to the enjoyment of property possessed by other properties in the same zone. Number 4, the difficulties and hardships were not created by any act of the appellant subsequent to the effective date of the regulation appealed from. And there are 2 sections in our code that deal with metal storage containers. One is permanent and one is temporary. And so that's where the Walmart containers come in. If you do see that they have some all year long, then by all means let code enforcement know and we can go talk to them about that. But metal storage containers are allowed as a temporary use in commercial zones. So if you would like to set a time limit on it, that's completely up to the council and that's in the code.
Could you tell me how many more of these we have floating around out there that have a temporary time limit on theirs?
To my knowledge, we don't have any. The people who have applied for the building permit since I've been here have one, and they've gotten a building permit and installed it, because they can have up to 320 square feet. And that can be a combination of sizes. Mr. Green's are 320 square feet each, so
Right.
he could just get a building permit and put one up tomorrow.
Well, I know we've gone through this process for Ace Hardware since I've been on, and I just wondered if there were more in the record books beyond that, because I did a 30-minute walk around town today, and they're all over the place.
Yes, and in commercial, they're allowed up to 320 square
But
feet.
they're, I mean, across the street from the address he says he wants to put that, there are 3 40-footers.
Do they show on this map, or are they further?
And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but
Well, and that's something that the council can consider too, is would you like to look at updating the metal shipping container ordinance? Do we
well,
have too many? Do you have too
I thought
few?
about that, but I don't want to drag this out and cause Mr. Green to be after Christmas before he gets an answer either.
That wouldn't affect your decision for him. You could grant him the variance with a time frame on it, which would be independent of the ordinance.
No, I was just,
They're a,
here's where I'm at.
Mhm.
Mr. Green came and asked, nobody else does. He got told no. Nobody else has been told no because they don't ask and they just do what they want.
Correct.
And it's not really fair to Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Counselor
That- and
McGoy
that's-
and,
I'm sorry, that's one of the questions I had as a follow-up. If they bring one shipping container request to you, that wouldn't come to us.
correct, that would just receive a building
So if
permit and
somebody
be
has
installed.
three, then they fit into
I mean,
what
and
Councilman
I'm
McGoy
not-
just said. They've just circumvented the,
And I'm not trying to blow the whistle on anybody, but they're all over the place. And I'm talking about in C2. I have 10 pictures today in a 45-minute time frame of 10 people who are out of compliance.
Yeah.
And if we only have one person that has asked, that means the rest of them didn't. And so I have a hard time telling him no when he's just asking for what everybody else has got.
Yes.
10 with more than one?
Yes.
Oh, so 10 with multiple.
10 in non-compliance.
Vice Mayor has a question.
Well, I have more of a statement. I too want to see businesses grow, that's for sure. And I definitely agree that you did come, you're here, you're asking, you presented it well to us. And I do understand too, I'm for granting it myself with a time extension, 2 years. And then I think that's something that we as a city would have to follow through and make sure, not like so many other things, it falls through the cracks and it doesn't happen. I'm in favor of, granting the variance with a condition that they're gone in 2 years, or that his warehouse is put in place in 2 years.
I'm in agreement with the mayor, vice mayor over there. If you could do this within 2 years, Mr. Green, I think this could probably work out for us. So that's my feeling there too.
Yes, sir,
Go ahead.
and
Go ahead.
Counselors and mayor, that would also give staff time if you'd like to review the code as it's written. And also, often I've run into issues where some things were put into place before the code was written, so they're grandfathered in. Some things are done without permission and nobody notices. Hopefully, with the upcoming budget cycle and improving our code enforcement, some of those things that you're saying will fall through the cracks, we could really catch sooner, and we could see when, we could send somebody by and say, when were these constructed? Were they before the ordinance? Were they after the ordinance? How many square feet are they? Those sort of issues, so that it can be more fair across the board.
Councilman Seal?
Yeah, I would just like to make a motion that we grant a variance to Mr. Green to allow him to put 4 40-foot storage containers on that piece of property for a period of not to exceed 2 years, and that they be placed in such a manner that they meet the setback requirements.
Second.
That's my motion.
And can I just, and could it be added that he would have his warehouse built by then?
That's what he said.
Yeah,
I don't know that we would.
whether it's built or
That's
not,
not
as long as the
necessary.
containers
As
are
long as
on.
it comes on.
As long as they're gone, okay.
That's not necessary.
So the motion on,
In the same spot.
okay, hang
Still
on.
have some.
You got something. We got, the motion on the floor is that we go ahead and allow the 4 Connex boxes to be placed, meet the setbacks, and there is a 2-year time frame on the Connex boxes for removal, correct?
That's correct.
And we have a second by Councilman Anzola, and I still have more discussion.
And when I went to look at it, you're not gonna be able to see it from the highway.
Correct.
There's stuff there that the height of these Connex boxes won't be seen. And I too wanna work with a business that's been around. I remember Captain Green. He worked with a lot of people in the valley at Always. I remember also that it was Western Auto and Carrasco Market that worked a lot with the people. And I'd like to work with you too, Mr. Green.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mayor Council, sorry, it is a public hearing, so a call to the public does need to be made
Okay,
before.
sorry. We have a call to the public. Anybody want to stand up and? Claude, come up and will you go ahead and state your full name, give me your social security number and your driver's license. and we'll do it.
Your banking account.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My purpose here tonight was I was interested in knowing the aesthetics of the Conex boxes. How's it going to fit into the neighborhood? Now, Mr. Green has assured me that they're going to be painted and they're going to look half decent. They're going to fit into the neighborhood. That's important because I have properties in that area. And it's important that things fit in. Now, listening to y'all discussing this back and forth, let me tell you, I'm 110% pro-business. I've got 3 businesses myself. And the valley needs business expansion. And one thing that I pick up on here is you're requesting or you're stipulating a time period on this. Now, I can almost bet you Mr. Green got the same problems in business that I have or any other businessman has. You cannot do a whole lot in 2 years. It takes longer than that. And I feel 2 years restriction or 2-year variance is simply not enough for Mr. Green. Now, if I was up there, I'd say, hey, give him 10 years. Then we got to look at it. But you know, with the current economics in the country and in our town, 2 years, one little hiccup, and he's in the dump. I don't think, not to slander anybody, but I don't think you're giving him a very good shake on 2 crummy years. Business is hard enough. I think you could rethink that and give him a little more elbow room. That's what I got to say.
No, Claude, I understand what you're saying, and the 2 years came from the material he presented us, indicating that he felt that in 2 years he would be able to do that. And I asked him if he was comfortable with that time frame. That's not a period of time that we came up with. That's something that Mr. Green requested.
I stand corrected. For shame. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Sure, go ahead.
Are we,
No, you're good, it's still open.
could Mr. Green, if he's not built it in 2 years, can he come back and do this again? Get a little extra time if he needs to?
I believe staff is going to be sending him letters and stuff, and I think at that time, if he hadn't built it, he could come and ask for another variance, and at that time, the staff would. I'm really comfortable with the placement that's set because of Mr. Green's commitment to us that he says he plans on it, and I hope and pray that his business flourishes because they've been here a long time, and I think this is a great deal for us to be able to approve for him. So I think in 2 years he can come back and reapply if he does not have that built by then. But I don't even see it being there 2 years because if he wants to add a new building on there, he's going to have to move those to be able to add that building on there. So we had a motion and we had a second and we had a full approval on it. Any opposed? I didn't get that far. Any opposed? Motion passes. Bring us to item 9. We're going
Public
to.
hearing?
What's that?
Yeah, you gotta close
We're gonna close the public hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
getting ready
open
to
the
do.
work session.
We're gonna go ahead and close our, we're gonna adjourn our Board of Adjustments. We're gonna go into our council work session, which is item 11.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This presentation is to clarify and bring discussion to important points concerning terminating RHS with Vantage Care Mission Square retirement. In this presentation, the following will be reviewed. Excuse me. Number 1, the steps it takes to terminate the plan along with choices on how to do so. Number 2, how terminating the plan affects employees and retirees. And number 3, the recommendation on how to terminate the plan. Please stop me with any questions you have. First, the first step, if an employer decides to terminate the RHS plan, the employer sends a letter to Mission Square Retirement requesting the termination of the RHS plan and a resolution to terminate showing the decision, board approval to terminate. The letter must include the plan numbers and a target termination date. Step 2, Mission Square Retirement processes the termination based on the requested termination effective date and reviews the plan to determine if there are any pending claims prior to processing the termination. An agreement for termination is drafted for the employer's approval signature. Step 3, upon terminating the RHS plan, the assets are returned to the employer with a list of the participants' account balances. If the employer pays these assets to the participants, it will be considered income and subject to applicable employment taxes. As an alternative to termination, the employer can suspend an RHS plan so new contributions are not made and it is on a spend down status. No new contributions would be allowed. Key points. There are approximately 42 active members in the RHS. Out of the 42 active members, there are approximately 7 that are current employees. Thank you, Councilman McGoy, for pointing that out. We were not aware of that. After we went back and did some research, we did find those employees. Mission Square has confirmed that current employees and retirees are treated the same when the plan is terminated, so there are no loss of monies. The City of Safford can choose either the cash out option or the spend down option, but not a mixture of both. Any questions so far?
Is there any opinion on that from the employees?
The current employees choose the cash out option. As far as the cash out option, if the City of Safford chooses this option, meaning all funds are sent back to the City of Safford, current employees on the plan that have a 457B account set up can transfer the monies over on a pre-tax basis. Employees that don't have a 457B account set up can set up an account and still transfer the monies over on a pre-tax basis, or they can choose to cash out the monies and taxes will be withheld. Retirees will receive a cash payout with applicable taxes withheld. If we choose...
Do they have a time frame to roll it over?
Not that I know of. I'm gonna put, I don't think there's a time frame with Mission Square, but I'd like to put a time frame in the communication we send out so that we can get the plan completely spent down. If we choose the spend down option, all monies for both employees and retirees will remain in the plan until they are spent down through medical claims. The recommendation is to choose to terminate the plan by cashing out and having the funds returned to the City of Safford for disbursement rather than the spend down option, as the chief complaint is that monies are stuck in the plan with little access to the funds because of qualifying medical claims and the reimbursement process is not favored. Do you have any questions concerning terminating the RHS plan?
Not from me. You've brought it to us about
Looks
3
like the way to
times.
go.
I think we've caught up with you.
Feels like a little more than that, but yes.
Yeah, probably.
So we're gonna bring it back in its current configuration? Unless I
Tonight.
hear.
Right.
Yes, tonight as an action item.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and close the work session, reconvene into regular meeting. Item 13.1, purchase power adjuster. Jason?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we bring forward this communication to discuss and understand staff's recommendation regarding the impact of the price volatility in the natural gas commodity market on our electric rates. To ensure that the long-term viability of the Electric Enterprise Fund It will be necessary to adjust current rates being charged to our customers. It is staff recommendation that the increase to the rates be partially offset by use of our reserves. Given what is expected to be a temporary increase in that market, the reserves to be used do not include the use of our base reserve. Within the city of Sapphire, 93.6% of our power supply is fueled by natural gas, leaving the city exposed to changes in this natural gas price. In the last 3 years, natural gas prices have increased by more than 400%. Within that time frame, the city hasn't increased its rates. The city is currently in the process of expanding our power supply portfolio to include solar, which would reduce our exposure to these fluctuating natural gas prices in the future. However, currently, given the overall financial health of the electric enterprise fund balance, a portion of the increase will be offset by using reserves to mitigate that cost to our customers. So tonight, I have a gentleman from KR Saline, our consultants, who's going to give us a presentation around this specifically, and then I'd like to discuss with the council and the mayor how we'd like to move forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kent Seimer. I'm here with Jeff Warner from KR Saline. Tonight, as Jason was saying, we'll speak a little bit about the city's power supply, the current state of power costs, and the purchase power adjuster. So real quick, I would like to define kind of what the purchase power adjuster is. And the purchase power is a rate component in electric utility rates. This is a tool that the city already uses, and it's used to capture the unforeseen changes in power costs that have occurred since the rates were last established. This rate is an adjuster, so it's used to go adjust up or downward as the costs will increase or decrease throughout the year. And this rate is typically tied directly to the cost of fuel supplies that serve our power resources. Put another way, this is a 2.3 cent rate adder that currently is passed through to the city's electric customers to collect additional power costs today.
And sir, this is already established. This is already in effect, so this varies.
Correct.
Okay, so what we're gonna end up trying to get is a increase on the rate, the base rate, eventually.
So Mayor and City Councilman Lopez, tonight we're specifically discussing how much we want to use from our reserves to support our customers. So the rate change needs to happen and is based on our current policy that exists in place for us to adjust to these increased costs for the city. Tonight we're trying to bring this forward to have a discussion around how much money we'd like to use from our reserves to support our customers.
And not increase the rate yet,
So
until after the study.
So there would be, this purchase power adjuster would come into effect and rates would change based on what that market value tells us we should change it to. So in his presentation further down, there's some options that are in there.
I just want to make sure I understand the target before we get going.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, the PPA is one part of the overall rate, so our gas is set up very similarly, and because you're working with a commodity and they vary over time, the rate study, which was actually built by these gentlemen, incorporates a fluctuating component to it, which is the PPA.
Like the fuel adjuster.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it allows us to adjust the cost to the customer so that we can adjust on a fairly regular basis. So every 6 months, the rates are billed, and it's built right into the rate study that every 6 months, and of course October, we're supposed to look at it for November through March, which we're bringing in October. Historically, we haven't really done anything with it because the cost of natural gas was relatively stable and we were okay with it. Obviously, recently, those prices have gone up significantly. And so this portion of the rate, it's a portion of it, the PPA is that part of it which fluctuates. And then because we've been very conservative fiscally, we do have reserves. And again, the reserves we're talking about here are above and beyond that base 50% reserve. So what we're trying to do is, again, mitigate the impact to the customer by using the reserves because the money is available in order to make the adjustment in the PPA and therefore the impact on the overall rate less.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder, sir. I just lots of times need more understanding.
All right, thank you, John. All right, so I want to touch briefly on Sapphire's current power supply. As Jason mentioned, roughly 94% of the city's power supply is based on a natural gas contract at Mesquite Generating Unit, which is located in outside of Phoenix, along with some supplemental purchases made through the market. Additionally, there's roughly 6.5% of hydroelectric. This is through contracts at Hoover Dam, the Arizona Power Authority, and the Colorado River Storage Project, which is Glen Canyon Dam. And as you're probably well aware, with the continued drought, we're seeing, of course, less water availability on the Colorado River. So right now, the city's really facing a dual threat on power supply, increase in gas prices that serve the majority of the power supply, but also a decreasing availability of hydroelectric generation. So it's a challenging time, and as the city has looked ahead at these times, there's already plans in place to provide more diversity to the power supply portfolio. They are participating in a 10 megawatt solar and battery project that's currently targeted at the summer of 2025, just for the time of construction and getting it running and going. So we're at this moment in time where we're still here, sitting here with 94% natural gas under kind of extreme prices we haven't seen for a very long time. So there's a high exposure to the current gas situation.
So 2025, before the solar farm field is built?
Correct.
And then how long after that before it starts generating?
I believe that's the online
That's
date.
the commercial operation date. Today,
That's
it's already
so
2024, and because of COVID and supply chain, it's been moved back a year. So that's the commercial operation date, is summer of 2025.
okay.
We hope.
Yes.
So with such a large percentage tied up in natural gas, I wanted to look at the kind of how we got here today on gas prices. Up until January 2020, we had been experiencing record low prices in natural gas. And they had been steady for quite a few years. There's been a gradual increase in production and in exports. But these last 2 years really marked some specific incidences that have really kind of driven the market. And I kind of separate them into two categories, kind of weather events and kind of the world market impacts. As we're all familiar with COVID, there was a kind of the shut-off of all the wellheads, and it was a slow uptick in production, and that kind of met up with kind of the world events in Ukraine and the demand on exports that has put on this country. At the same time, there's been a number of significant weather events that had severe power price impacts on the western U.S. Includes the California heat storm, which basically was extreme heat met with wildfires and a number of situations in August of 2020, as well as kind of the Texas freeze folks are familiar with, February, where we had a lot of power units and gas production, wellheads freeze off. These events basically put heightened scrutiny on utility power supplies and in effect increased demand as regulators required utilities to tighten up their supplies and kind of show more evidence that the supplies would show up when called upon. Combined with the world events, we've seen kind of the natural gas prices go from our record lows around $2 per MMBTU to $8 or $9 here recently. Going forward, what we're seeing with the continued situation in Ukraine, the need for supplies over there, and the weather situations we've experienced the last 2 years, the current forecast for gas prices are around $9 and exceeding $10 and even $11 at times over these next several months. So these next 3 to 6 months is a very critical period on the natural gas markets. We're seeing a lot of volatility, even week to week as situations change. These prices were produced, 3 weeks ago. Since then, we've seen OPEC come out and change oil production. And so there's just this constant change and variability in these prices.
The Texas freeze came and went, and it did what it was designed to do. If there was a spike in demand, they were going to charge higher prices. It worked the way they wanted it to. Some of these other events that you showed have gone now, but you haven't touched on any of what's happening nationally and policy coming down the pike that's shooting our own selves in the foot. None of that is reflected in any of this, because that's leery to me, what's going on. I'm more concerned about what's coming down from our national policies that's affecting us.
Right. Well, obviously Ukraine is kind of the big event, and
I know that's what's being said, but I'm
well, and so there's record exports of gas supplies and LNG. We did see a decreased prices temporarily as the export facility in Texas caught fire, but that's projected to come back online here November-ish, I believe. And but we've also seen European gas supplies they've shored up their supplies sooner than they expected. So, I can't speak to the policy decisions because those seem to change as often as the world events impacting these things. But what I do want to point out is just kind of how quickly things can change. One of the things on this graph I've got here, kind of at the bottom line, we see these prices down here at the bottom. These were the forward prices when, both in July 17, when we last looked at the base rates for the city, and in July 2021, when the city staff would have been setting budgets for the 2022 fiscal year. So just in a very short time, we've gone from the $2 to $4 price range and seen a dramatic increase in a very relatively short time. We do see, in the forward pricing going forward, starting about the spring of next year, we see a fall off in the prices. Our advice at this point is just to reevaluate as the city is setting the budget for 2024, and undertaking a rate study at that time is a good time to reevaluate and see where prices are then, because we do see constant volatility in these prices. But as of today, the expectation is to have some pretty significant natural gas prices for the next 6 months. So putting this in more dollars and cents for the city, this graph here shows a number of things. The blue bar is the amount of energy costs being collected in the current rates that are passed on to the city's customers. The lighter grayer bar is the current PPA that's in place and the additional money that it is collecting in the power rates. The black line is the true power costs that the city is paying. And so I want to point out that from 2017, fiscal year 17, when we set these rates, again up until FY20 and into FY21, the current rates that the city is passing on to customers was doing a relatively good job at collecting the costs. But because of this rapid increase in gas supplies, we see shown in the the red bars at the top, this represents the amount of money that's going to go uncollected if no change is made. As the average power cost has gone from 46 and is expected to increase to $86.47 a megawatt hour. At that peak point, that represents about $3.4 million in under collections that will be needed to be funded either through rate action and increase in rates or the use of the reserves. And I also want to point out that the city is not alone in this situation. I mean, obviously, we're all impacted by gas prices at the pump, but we're also across the board with our clients. We've pretty much, I can't think of a single client that hasn't had to go and increase their rates to address this issue. So, you know, the city is not alone in this situation, and it's just a hard time for our utilities. I think SRP recently announced also they actually undercollected by the magnitude of $300+ million, and that council chose to do partial rate increases, but also rely on their reserves. So, what are the options for the city? We've looked at various levels of rate increases to the purchase power adjuster. So the council can choose to kind of keep things at the current purchase power adjuster and rely on passing these costs 100% through and using reserve funds. And as I mentioned, that's approximately $3.4 million that would come out of reserves of this fiscal year. We've stepped up at various options here at different levels that the PPA could be adjusted to above the current 2.3 cents. Currently the staff is kind of looking at the 50 cents to 60 cent range as kind of a good balance and trade-off between using the reserves to offset some of these increasing costs, as well as, you know, holding on to flexibility for any changes in the future to the variability of these natural gas prices.
It's 5.5, right? Not 50.
5.5 cents, yes.
All right.
Sorry. So at the end of the day, this purchase power adjuster, if a new purchase power adjuster is selected, there's an increase to the customers of Sapphire. And so this chart here displays kind of the actual dollar amount impact on a typical residential bill. So currently in the target cost range, PPA rate range that we're looking at, the impact would be between $19.87 to $27 per month per customer. So between a 25 and 34% increase. You know, the other options here, of course, you know, are presented as a range of impacts that, you know, the council could choose from. But overall, you know, we are, you know, recommend that an action is taken to the purchase power adjuster, retroactive back to October 1st, or basically effective with the next set of bills that go out. And the city is already continuing to go down the path of diversifying the power portfolio through the addition of solar and battery. The city is evaluating if there's opportunities through gas hedging opportunities on the power side, and is planning on a cost of service study in the spring. Are there any questions?
Did you say your name is Kent?
Yes.
Kent, Kent, do you stay in contact with Jason regularly?
Not more recently. You know, Jason called upon us to discuss this matter.
So you don't send out monthly projections of where? I mean, aren't we under contract with you to be our representative?
Yes, we do power supply planning, invoice verification, scheduling services. I'm not the individual that provides that service. We have others in their office that's what they specialize in, and there are monthly reports that are provided regarding kind of the state of power costs. Because,
and this might not be directed to you, Kent, but that was one of my concerns is, are you staying in contact with staff to let them know? The thing that I always have a heartburn with is the moment that we cry, you know, we see these increase, and all of a sudden the first thing we want to do is just increase our, you know, to our consumers. And how long did it take for us to get there? So how long did staff know and opted to hold tight? And how long did staff take this before we decided to come back and say, okay, hey, we can't keep funding this unless we do an increase? I don't mind selling increases to the consumer, to our customers, but to me, to do it overnight is really a heartburn for me. I think that we projected early on, and we've seen this coming back in, according to our charts here, we've seen this coming. I mean, it's been projecting up for quite a while, since March, April, and May. Why didn't we have these discussions back in those days versus right now? You know, I mean, you're seeing a projection coming down already in June and July. And you guys have showed us what it's going to bring if we choose to do one of these increases. But my thing is, we just didn't get here overnight. So it had been coming. And my question is I just feel like it's just came too quick, too fast when we've seen these projections, and why? So Jason, I'm gonna ask you why.
That's a great question, and it's definitely for me, Mayor. With over the last 6 months, we've seen that increase in the gas prices. Our PPA is, per our city code approved by it, is in review every 6 months. So every 6 months we sit down and look at that. We sat down in March as we saw these come forward. We sat down with KR Saline, and they looked forward for our projections that they had given us previously for our 2022 budget, and gave us some forelook there that said, hey, this is probably you're gonna probably need to increase at that point in time. The preliminary budget had already been approved by that point, and so obviously our top line had already been approved and can't be adjusted at that point in time. And so we continue to carry that burden for our customers as we move forward, and then at this appropriate time within our PPA and our code, this is when it tells us to come and bring it forward.
So you said something, Jason, that said that 6 months ago you guys had this discussion, and KR Saline told you that they felt that we should be getting ready to adjust those rates. And we didn't hear that 6 months ago, but we're hearing it today. That's my issue. You know, I mean, you know me, I'm not one that says the sky's falling. I hate that. I'm projecting us I'm just not too comfortable with where the world's going today. And to add, you know, even if we picked one of the small ones at a 24% increase, you know, to me, I just don't think I can pass that on to my customers right now. I'm not in favor of any of this right now, because I want things earlier in time frame. Councilman Steele?
You know, and I'm just, I don't have any facts to back this up, but right now we're just talking about electricity.
Right.
But we're talking about gas generation of electricity, and how about our gas customers? I mean, those rates are probably similar rates to this. So.
John, if you want to take that, or I can.
Go ahead.
So within both our gas and our electric policies, this PPA exists. And so we've already adjusted gas prices based on that PPA. It's not something that we need to bring to council. The council's approved that process in the past. So really tonight, we're asking for this expenditure of our reserves, and that's why we're bringing it to you. The PPA is an adjustment based on that. How are we going to financially and fiscally be responsible in the process of running these enterprise funds? And that cost of the commodity adjustment is always going to be something we need to look at and review in a regular basis to be able to keep that financially stable.
I understand that, so I guess my question is, since there's already been some adjustment in the gas, you're not going to be coming back to us in a few months and saying we need to adjust the natural gas rate as we did this.
So in the spring of 2023, we have a full rate study for gas, water, electric, and our sewer rates, to be a complete study to be done and completed. And at that point in time, as they've shown in this forecasted gas price model, we hope that has come down, and we're able to forecast what those rates will need for us to move on forward. But as far as gas, we'll go through that same PPA process and review. In the gas, we have a stabilization fund that allows us to take these financial moves up and down, the fluctuation in the market, that stabilization allows us to take those hits within that. The electric does not currently have that stabilization in their process. I like the fact that it exists in our gas, and I'm going to bring something forward in the future that allows us to have those same reserves for our electric, but currently we don't.
Councilman Hibbs?
A comment and then a question, Jason. As a customer, I guess it's fortunate that this is occurring at the start of winter for me, as the bulk of my electrical bill is my air conditioning, obviously. And it sounds like the hope is that by the time we're hitting the AC time next spring, we've dropped back down around the $6 range. I know that's probably part of the hope from your end of it, and that's the comment. The question is, remind me what our reserves are above the 50% mark.
So within our electric enterprise fund, we have some reserves that we've kept over the past based on capital projects that have been canceled or just being fiscally prudent in that process. And we currently have $3.2 million in the enterprise fund that's available to us.
Right.
The reason why, as a staff, we brought the suggestion of specifically around that $1.2, $1.3 million is because the hope is in March that the market looks better. If we incur all that cost within our reserves now, if that market hits us even harder in the spring, we don't have any flexibility in what we can do for our customers moving forward.
But 3.2 is the total above the 50%.
It is.
Thank you.
Hang on. Go ahead, Councilman.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. There's already a built-in escalator in this because of natural gas prices. And what you're asking us to do is take reserves and soften the blow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
if we don't do this, the price is going to go up steeper than if we do.
For the customer.
For the customer.
And Mayor, Council, and Council in general, the increase that we're asking for today is, in terms of your customers, is the best case scenario, right? When we ended last year, so if we had budgeted $7 million in gas this year as part of the budget, we wouldn't be here right now, right? We would just adjust the PPA and press on. We budgeted 6, it all comes out of the same pot. So we held the reserves to cover the overage in last year's budget, which again, didn't cost the customers anything. As we got into this year, knowing that prices were on the rise, we started looking at that to see where we were during summer purchasing where there's a premium. We probably should have had that $7 million in there, but it all comes out of the same pot. Whether you budgeted the 7 or not, you're still paying for it, and we've been paying for it, so the customer hasn't. Fortunately for us, we have enough reserves where we can soften that blow. So again, the scenario that we're presenting tonight, no matter how you unfold this, has minimal impact on the customer relative to what it would have otherwise been. Now, in the case of gas, they built a revenue stabilization fund. So as we adjust that PPA, we can absorb that cost more than adjust the PPA, right? Because we have the stabilization fund. Despite having the PPA in electric, they never built the stabilization fund in electric. Therefore, you feel it in real time. So as we go back out there and we want to do another rate study, part of the goal will be to build up some level of reserve. Now, obviously going forward, we'll have solar, so that'll mitigate the blow. But I think the point here is that this is an attempt to, we haven't impacted the customers at all up to this point. So this is another effort to try and say, okay, because we are in such a good financial position, we're in a position to say we can ride out the rest of the year where the prices are anticipated to be higher. And again, they're estimates. If they're lower, you'll use less reserves. But by the time we get into the next cycle, we will have another rate study, and hopefully prices will have come down, and of course the PPA can come down. So again, in terms of your customer base, regardless of our estimates, we have given them the best possible scenario, and by being able to use reserves, it makes it an even better scenario because we're minimizing the amount they would have paid. If we had been using the PPA earlier, you would have just been charging them more earlier, right? So you've absorbed that because you can.
Go ahead. Go ahead, and after you, I got another
Do
one.
we have any projects on the table? We've almost done with our taking the copper out. Do we have any other projects that are gonna jump up?
We also have, Councilman Lopez and Mayor, we also have our existing substation redesign. That gives us that flexibility and stability in our substation. If we have a failure within that, we'd be able to work on that and keep the city with power. If that construction doesn't exist, any failure within the substation shuts down our city until that, whatever that work can.
I guess what I'm asking is, we have anything on the horizon that we're gonna need to tap some of the reserve funds also?
So the reserve funds that we have in there, that additional 3.2 is above our already committed capital for 2022-23. Obviously, down the road from there, we have the new substation expansion that's coming down the road. So those funds would definitely be used in the future for those pieces of capital improvement that would be coming, but
it was budgeted for.
yeah, but not budgeted specifically for at this time.
All the way, because we also have prices going up. We barely got a transformer for the new dollar store. Took us a long time to get our hands on that.
Yep.
All our equipment is gonna go up again, our transformers, our conductor, our poles and stuff, because they're all going to Florida now.
Exactly.
So all our stuff is getting written off, and we're not gonna have the luxury of that. And when we do go to buy it, so you're gonna have to work with the other entities and make sure we don't all have the same stuff on the shelf.
Agreed
Councilman
completely.
Hickfield has a question?
Well, more of a comment, realizing it would take all of the reserves to make no or minimal change to the customer. I'd definitely like to be closer to the 1.6, more of the, and on the rates, does it need to be by the half cent? I guess, is that a half cent? Or?
This percentages
Yeah.
specifically.
Are they in increments of 5 just out of easier for the chart, or could we split it exactly, 1.7, 1.7?
Mayor and Councilman Hemphill, we can change whatever we want. It's really, this is just a round broad. This,
right,
yeah, this is
right.
this is roughly where we want to be. Specifically, if we have a specific amount that we want to put from our reserves into that, we can have the PPA reflect whatever's left through
Right.
that. So,
Right. So this is just
and so
a
if those
demonstration.
costs drop, that PPA number would drop just based on, and we would use our max reserves. However, we want to adjust
Right.
that, we have that ability.
And this is another aspect, and again, we discussed this before in terms of the reserves. We pay for our capital by the accumulation of the reserve. So the more you dip into that, the less money will be available going
Right.
forward for capital projects. Now, current capital projects that have been approved are already subtracted out and leave you the 3.2. So that's why we went with the 1 million figure, and if we left 2 million, that was a fairly solid number going forward, because as we go forward and we do bring new capital projects online and those prices rise, that money that you're looking at will be used to pay for those projects.
Right.
I think that's what I was asking.
Yes. Yeah, so right now, you have approved the copper replacement. There's also a project for putting switches in, so that we can work on 2 of the transformers. So again, we're in a solid position as well there, because we will be making the system robust by saying that if a transformer were to go down, we can run on 2 while we fix the other one, and right now the city can run on 2. So again, I think the idea was trying to balance, and it's always the same balance. We're balancing the needs of the fund to run the enterprise fund fiscally responsibly while trying to minimize the impact on the customer.
And just to clarify, if we did nothing, I've lost the acronym, the PPA, we'd increase the full amount already
You
by.
would completely
by-
bleed the top of the reserve off, which you still have a 50% reserve that you could go into if that's where you want to go, which is why we provided all the options.
So if we, again, that's the opposite answer that I was expecting. If we did nothing, all the reserves come off per the,
Yes, what, you have $3.2 million in reserves that are not spoken for either in a policy that sets a reserve or capital projects that require funding. So the 3.2 is above and beyond and would be
Right.
projected to be used going forward for capital projects, which I don't think is a wise choice.
so the way this PPA policy was originally written, the reserves come off first
The way the PPA was written was it was anticipated that changes in the commodity prices wouldn't be so
Right.
extreme and that you wouldn't use reserves. But unfortunately, because of the volatility and the way we're seeing it spike, then it actually comes off the top. And again, if we had budgeted $7 million in electric and said that's our purchasing, we wouldn't be here tonight and we'd be spending that money because it's still coming out of that same pot. It's still the reserves that would fund the $7 million if you budgeted that way.
Well, I'm, like I said, again, I'm not in favor of this. I've never sat on council where staff has brought us rate studies and rates have gone down for the consumer. They've always increased. So we're hearing about the talk right now today. We're hearing about this rate study coming up in, you guys said March or whatever. And so at that time, we're going to start doing it. And once again, it's whatever you elect and you turn into KR Saline and they start putting their pencils together and it's going to come out to be whatever we want it to come out to be. That's the truth. So I am in favor of when you go to rewrite this, that you already put in that cost fluctuation in there as we do with our gas. And so as the prices go up, then it can reflect within a certain margin. And then when it goes down, like when I saw my bill today on my gas, that I got a gas subsidized, so I got a credit. So, I mean, I think that needs to get built in. I think that should be built in all of our utilities. Then we wouldn't be having this option. We wouldn't have this talk.
So Mayor, the PPA that's in the gas is the exact same PPA we're discussing tonight in the electrical. It already exists. The change in the gas commodity price happens so extreme that we review that every 6 months. It's not a month to month. We don't adjust those rates month to month. It's every 6 months that's in a review. And because it happens so extreme over the last 6 months, that's where if we allowed the PPA to adjust completely by itself without any impact following our policy and code, we would be increasing the 219%.
that was exactly my question. And maybe I worded it incorrectly. If we make no action tonight, we don't use any reserves.
Exactly. We're asking to use reserves.
I must have asked.
Actually, no.
Okay, either asked it poorly or somebody's wrong.
One's saying no and one's saying yes.
Because if you take no action tonight, you have to pay for the increase. The increase is coming at least based on the estimate. What we're saying is we're splitting the increase between a change in the PPA and the reserve usage. Using the reserves mitigates the increase in the PPA, which means you mitigate the impact on the customer. One way or the other, if this projection is accurate and prices rise, you will pay for it.
Right. But
And if you don't have a PPA adjustment, it will come out of your reserves.
anyway.
So John and I are looking at the same coin on two different sides. If we allow the PPA to work as it should, it will adjust itself. We will go in and change our PPA to be the change to 219%, right? The customer, there would be no reserve spent whatsoever. The cost would be totally and completely incurred by the customer. We're asking the city council to approve the use of reserves to decrease the amount of usage on the PPA that
I'm
we
still
would
hearing
need.
two different things.
Yeah.
If we do, that's not what you just said. If we do nothing tonight, we go to 219% and no reserves are used, yes or no?
No.
And you're saying yes?
If you do not make an adjustment tonight, then, and their projection is accurate, it's the top line,
Okay.
no change.
Okay, and I just want to be clear on that, because we're definitely,
You are saying it to me.
You're definitely saying two different things, right?
Yeah, I am too.
What I'm saying to you is if you don't act, you're
I-
gonna absorb it through your reserves.
Right, I know exactly what you're saying to me, and I understand it completely, and I know exactly what Jason's saying to me, and I understand it completely,
Right.
and they're completely opposite.
Okay. If you take no action tonight,
So you're
You're
right
going-
and Jason's wrong.
if you take no action tonight, you will use your reserves to cover the cost.
Is that true, Jason?
So,
Yeah.
so what John's saying is if we do not change our PPA tonight,
Right.
the full cost would be a $3.45 million. What I'm saying is, within our currently approved, from our rate study in 2017, the PPA would normally adjust without a council approval, without a council review. It just, that's what occurs every 6 months, and we would bring it to you as a,
But he's saying there, no action means no adjustment in the PPA.
and so that's why I'm saying, if there's no action from the city council, there's no funds approved. The PPA,
And it comes out of your reserve.
Because we still have to pay for the
The
power.
action was that we were taking it out of reserve.
The action that we're requesting is that we split it, so that part of it comes out of a rate
Okay.
increase to the customer and part of it comes out of reserve. If you make no change to the rate through the PPA, you will fully absorb the cost from your reserves, which will be
I thought the PPA adjusted the rate automatically.
It doesn't. You have to make the adjustment, and
Then Why do
normally,
we have it?
well, because we're supposed to look at it every 6 months, which we're doing right now.
That's when,
Not 6 months ago.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on what action we're
Yes.
taking. I mean, I understand both. I understand the
Yes.
whole,
If you take no action, meaning we can adjust the PPA as staff, we're not coming to you to adjust the
Right.
PPA. The reason we're here is because we're asking, are you comfortable with the reserve usage, right?
Right.
No action means you would take no change in your rate, but your costs continue to rise, which means it has to come from
We would
somewhere.
use the 3.2.
Where does it come from? It
Right.
comes from your reserves.
I have just a question. Go to that slide that shows us what the increase, okay? So if the PPA was set to automatically adjust itself as it does the gas, right now, each person would be paying an additional $37. If the PPA was allowed to increase.
adjust as
And adjust.
it is per code, yes.
All right, thank you.
And none of the PPAs are automatic. They are
Already.
adjusted by staff.
Right.
Now, I guess you could work it into the new rate study if you wanted to have a margin. I'm not sure how that would work, but right now, it takes a positive action on the part of staff to adjust the PPA.
Well, I'll make a motion, and I hope I word it right. I move that we approve 1.2 million of reserves to be used in combination with the PPA rate adjustment, and I think that's 5.5 cents. Is that right? Okay. That's a motion.
We have a
Saying
motion.
you're pointing to the middle one, Vice Mayor?
that's the request from staff.
The middle, the 139.
Correct.
I guess I'll second it, just see where it goes from here.
We have a motion and we have a second, and that is to go with staff's recommendations, which is use reserve funds, and then also to increase our consumers by the .055.
And that one made it go up $27 a month?
Can you go to the next slide?
So that was an average of
23.
23.55 cents.
And then Vice Mayor took the happy medium.
23.55 is what it made it go up to. That 29.5% bill increase.
Essentially, he took the staff recommendation.
So, any more discussion? If not, I'm gonna ask for a vote. All those in favor?
I would like to ask him to amend it to the top one, the 24, but he's staying with that.
Well, we got a
That's
motion
okay.
and we have a second, so we
Okay.
need to, he can either amend it and we start over, or we're going to finish this vote and then we can come back with another motion.
Okay, because you don't want to do anything at all.
No,
And-
I wanna use our reserves. That's what it's built for. That's why we charged our customers more money in the good times and in the bad times. And we can take it.
That's out there now.
Okay, so I asked for it, and he's not gonna amend it. So,
Okay.
all those in favor of what's on the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
3, any opposed?
Actually, I think it's 4.
Gene was for it.
Yeah, that was 3, so you had,
4.
oh, you put your hand up? All right, you guys gotta get your hands up a little higher. All those in favor?
They were.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thanks, guys. Let's not be afraid to vote.
Let's not be afraid to make a motion.
All right. Bring us to item 13.2.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Tammy?
So, Mayor and Council, this is a request for you guys to review and approve the August 8th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Was there any questions on those minutes or comments?
Mayor, make the motion that we approve the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 council meeting minutes.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 13.3. Vermeer VX 50-800 pothole trailer purchase. Morgan?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Mayor and Council to approve the purchase of the Vermeer VX 50-800 pothole trailer. This purchase would be made under the Sourcewell contract pricing. The Water Department currently utilizes a combination sewer vehicle to pothole for underground utilities while in the planning process and repair process of active leaks. By purchasing the VX50, the department will be able to utilize a combination sewer vehicle to focus on cleaning the sewer system and assisting with other issues as needed. The Vermeer VX50 will be used full-time in assisting with infrastructure repairs, design phase exploration. This item has been approved for purchase in the current fiscal year in the amount of $95,000. Staff recommends the purchase of the Vermeer VX 50-800 from Vermeer Mountain West in the amount of $96,255.63. Are there any questions?
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve this, Vermeer, right?
Vermeer, correct.
Vermeer, VX 50-800 pole trailer purchase.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Vermeer VX 50-800 pothole trailer purchase. Any discussion?
You have one of them already?
Mayor Couts, Councilman Lopez, we currently do have one in the gas department that they use quite a bit, and they definitely enjoy having this.
And then the bigger one that goes around, the big.
So we have the combination sewer vehicle, the camel truck.
And that's the one you're needing to blow out the sewers.
Correct, and we would like to free that up to utilize it in the sewer system and allow this Vermeer VX 50 to do the potholing and exploration while the sewer truck remains in the sewer system.
Okay.
We would still utilize the combination sewer truck as needed for additional repairs, but that thing is used quite a bit for the hydro excavation capability that this pothole trailer would allow us to use.
Thank you, sir.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Resolution R22-036, sick leave policy. Danielle, you're back.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to adopt resolution number R22-036, a resolution adopting the revisions to the HR sick leave policy. It is recommended that the RHS account be discontinued and both a cash payout and/or a deposit into their 457B retirement be offered to employees that are resigning, retiring. This will allow employees to choose how their funds are processed. There is also a recommendation to establish a length of service schedule to reward those with extended lengths of service with a higher payout, and a recommendation to calculate the payout at the base hourly rate at retirement. This calculation is to help administrative processes with a simpler calculation and to benefit the employee with a slightly higher payout. Any questions?
I move we approve resolution R 22-036, sick leave policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 22-36, sick leave policy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You want to read it, Tammy?
Yes, sir. Resolution number R 22-036, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, approving the amended sick leave policy of the Human Resources Policy Manual for City of Safford employees.
Thank you. Danielle, on these resolutions, I don't think anything changed since we had our work session on them.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you guys are okay with it, she wouldn't have to present everything that she's been presenting. Is that okay? Are you guys comfortable with me speeding this up a little bit?
They were all good.
Okay. So, I need a motion for resolution R 2237.
I move we approve resolution R 22-037, vacation leave policy, and resolution R 22-038, that's a termination of the retirement health savings plan, and resolution R 22-040.
If we can leave that one separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just, the motion was for resolution R 2237, vacation leave policy, and resolution R 2238, termination of the retirement health savings plan. That was the motion.
Yes.
Let's just need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on those two? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are two, motion passes. Would you read those two in, please, Tammy?
Resolution number R 22-037, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, approving the amended vacation leave policy of the Human Resources Policy Manual for City of Safford employees. Resolution number R 22-038, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, to terminate the Vantage Care Mission Square Retirement Health Savings RHS plan.
Thank you. That's going to now bring us to resolution R 22-40, Cabrina. Thanks, Danielle. I'm just trying to save your breath.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Mayor and Council to approve Resolution R 22-040, a resolution adopting a public safety personnel retirement system pension funding policy. The Arizona Revised Statute 38-863.01 requires the city to adopt a pension funding policy annually. The policy is intended to address the pension funding for employees who were hired before July 1st, 2017. The policy includes the following content. The city of Safford formally accepts the employer's share of the assets and liabilities under the system based on the system's actuarial valuation. The city of Safford's goal is to have a funding ratio of 100% fully funded by June 30th of 2048. The city of Safford will continue to fund the annual payments from operating funds without diminishing city services. The public safety personnel retirement system provides the city with an actuarial study each fiscal year that includes the necessary data to update the policy. However, due to the timing of the valuation report having been issued prior to the bond issuance earlier this year, our 2023 policy reflects the full $13.1 million in unfunded liability. Once the actuarial valuation has been completed for fiscal year 2024, our policy would then be brought back, and it would reflect the bond payment, and any unfunded liability would be up to date. Any questions?
I like her speed reading. Anybody have any
Yeah.
questions if you got that?
I'm glad you brought that point out.
Okay.
Mayor, I make the motion, we approve resolution R 22-040, PSPRS funding policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 22-40, PSPRS funding policy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Cabrina. Bring us to item 15-1 ordinance, go for it.
Resolution number R 22-040, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Safford, Arizona, adopting a public safety personnel retirement system pension funding policy.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance, or item 15-1, ordinances, ordinance 022-03, City of Safford Municipal Code. Tammy?
Mayor and Council, this is a request to discuss and do a first reading of ordinance 022-003. This is an ordinance that is adopting and enacting an amended municipal code for the City of Safford. So a little background, our code has not been updated or recodified since 1999 when it was originally adopted through the Muni Code system. So this is what this has done. We've been working on this about a year now with staff, going through and doing updates, working with the Muni Code attorneys and staff to go through back and forth with review and everything. So this is just basically going through and identified any conflicts, inconsistencies, and obsolete provisions in connection with state statutes. So nothing was necessarily changed in it substantively, other than the only things that were even taken out was if it was covered by state statute, then that was taken out and just state statute was put in its place. So really, it was just a cleanup of the code that has been needed for 20 plus years on this. And from now on, also too, what we did through Muni Code is we updated with them that it'll also be updated annually through state statutes as well too. So we won't be 20 plus years behind on those links to state statutes and legislative as well too. Did you guys have any comments or questions on the ordinance?
Everybody have a chance to look at them?
And also just real quick, so the actual ordinance itself, so this is just a first reading discussion. When we bring that back, it will be adopted by resolution, just merely for purposes of it's such a large resolution. The code itself will be adopted in full, and it's 411 pages. So I just put the substantive changes in there for you guys to review for now, but when we do bring back the resolution, the entire code will be attached to that resolution. If you guys would like that prior, we can either go to a work session if you have any questions on it, or I can send it to you ahead of time for you to review, whichever you prefer.
And who did you state that helped you get this in order?
So Muni Code is the one that hosts our code for us online through Civic Plus, and it's their attorneys and staff that actually went through this and revised it for us, that we worked with.
There is gonna be questions later as I've read some of this, because little things like the lighting, you're changing the lighting. I'm hoping we're still paying attention to the dark sky rule around here.
I believe so, yes. So we worked with every department head. They're the ones that reviewed anything that was within their department through the code, and they did review it to make sure it was still staying within what we previously had. Like, again, we didn't really change it a lot, if there is just small verbiage in there, but any questions we can definitely answer for you that you have on those.
Okay.
I think you need those 400 pages to look over.
Yes. Because we got new department heads. Some of them don't know about the dark sky rule.
Yeah, so all current department heads are the ones that went through this process with us and reviewed everything that was to be changed within the code. Or it shouldn't necessarily change, that was updated to be current.
The word assumed was used in here twice.
Was it?
Yes. So that's where there'll be questions.
Can we wait till December to bring
Yeah.
this back?
Councilman Seal, I love it, that's great.
Yeah, that's the other reason why I'm gonna wait a little bit.
Anything else for Tammy? All right, I think you got some direction. Did you get enough direction to make what you-
Everybody's good to move forward with it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. And I'll go ahead and read that into the minutes if we're good with that.
Announcement of current events.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and just read it in real quick.
Oh, you have to read that in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So ordinance number I-22-003, an ordinance of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting and enacting an amended municipal code for the city of Safford, Arizona, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective.
Okay, thank you. Item 16, announcement of current events. Item 17, request for future agenda items.
Mayor, I just wanted to highlight a few, if I could.
Shoot it.
As a result of our discussions at the last meeting, we talked about doing some Monday work sessions, so we've already put one out there for October 17th, which will be a discussion on the compensation plan. We anticipate another one on November 7th, also on the compensation plan. And as a result of our discussions during my annual evaluation, we discussed the second meeting in November as being a visioning work session instead. Usually we cancel that meeting. So again, I just wanted to remind council, make sure that still is something that they want to go forward with, is using that second meeting in November to do a visioning discussion.
Okay, John, just for my sake, when I see a council, acceptance go out, I would like to have more information, instead of just says, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be picky, you guys don't hate me for saying this, but when it just comes out and says staff wants to have a meeting with the council, you know, you gotta clarify that and make that a little bit better for me, and let me understand why we're meeting, because, I mean, if staff just wants to get together, they can get together with you and have a meeting, but what is gonna be productive out of that meeting, and does it need us? So that's what I would ask for, okay?
And I agree, Mayor Counts, and I did follow up with a follow-up email that laid out
Yes, you
more
did.
detail. And so I totally agree with you, and we'll work on that and make sure that in the future that there's more detail involved. And again, I would like to get some of these out there in advance. So we're gonna be working on the budget calendar so that any of these additional Monday work sessions, you'll know a long time in advance. So again, if you can't make it, we can make ourselves available to any council member who misses them. We can meet with you one-on-one and go over them, but I totally agree, there needs to be more detail.
Okay,
Mayor?
go ahead.
And I've indicated I can't be here on the 17th, but I can make the other two.
Okay. And if we need to, I can set something up with you to go over whatever you
As
missed.
long
And
as it
again,
included dinner. Okay, anything else on the request for future agenda items? And remember, you guys, as you think of stuff, you can always call John and I believe Aunt Tammy too, and use the proper chain and get them on there. So it doesn't, we don't have to have it just for tonight, but.
Mayor, just to make sure, are we all good with the second meeting in November as a work session to work on the visioning concepts?
What's the date?
28th, I believe.
Yes, it's the 28th.
28th.
Thanksgiving weekend.
It would be the Monday after Thanksgiving.
The Monday
Is that
after
okay? I
Thanksgiving?
mean, we can do it another,
It's not gonna matter to me, I just wanna throw it out
Yeah,
there that
okay.
If it's a Monday
It is a
after.
long weekend, so.
Yeah, it's the Monday after Thanksgiving week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're,
it is. And again, we can move it. Again, it was a discussion we had. That's why I want to double check and make sure, because obviously these are important topics and having the council be there is important, as many as possible.
okay, great. Report on operational items. Remember that, however, no discussion at this time except for clarification inquiries, and Tammy's will get on us if we go below that. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have on the screen our September monthly report. These are available on our website every month, and I will be using the new home permits issued line and the commercial permit issue line so that we don't get residential remodels into our data. And the Planning and Community Development Department compiles a list of monthly statistics that are available on our website. September of 2022 will be published after the 15th of this month. I've compiled the commercial and residential building information for the month of August year-to-date from 2015 through 2022. The building trends in Safford seem to follow national trends. Building increased after the last economic slowdown and has decreased with COVID and the current inflationary environment. We use the same building code that Thatcher does, and our zoning is comparable. I would like to streamline our zoning in 2023. As the planning director for a year now, I have discussed building in Safford with citizens, developers, and staff. What I need from the council and the community is the data that I can't compile. If you hear of someone who moved their project out of Safford, please ask them why and/or give them my phone number. I've reached out to developers as well to ask people to call me when they feel this way. In the year I've been here, no projects that were looked at for Safford have not followed through unless the market priced them out with their idea or other issues with their business plan occurred. And on the screen now, I have the data so you can see that after the recession, there was a slowdown in building. Both commercial and residential went up, and then now they've slowed down since 2020 again. And with that, any information that I used, I can email if the council would like that. Any questions about the data?
Now, do we, to find out like what was gonna go in this new building where Tally's building, do we ask you or we ask Tammy what's going in there?
You can ask me, and then that'll be on the report down here where it says site plan reviews. If we've had any for the month, it will show the number of site plan reviews.
And then the projected time of opening. Get with you again, all right.
Yes. And that goes for anybody in the public also. If they have questions, these reports are on our website, so you can always direct them to me if they have questions.
So Jamie, just for clarification, and this is gonna be stretching it, but when you have stuff that has already passed the planning and zoning, I know that the staff has asked us not to attend planning and zoning meetings, but when stuff has passed the planning and zoning meetings and we have a new business coming into town, I sure would like to get an email from you addressed to the council that we have something that's there. And not just have to hear about it from Main Street or whatever, you know, so.
Sure.
I know that's, anyway, I think that's clarification enough.
What level would you like? Tammy and I can work on a monthly new business
I think you
report.
should do something like that to the council.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And Tammy and I can work on that, and that can go on our monthly report, new businesses registered within the city of Safford.
Yeah, and that, I mean, we just saw construction going on at the new Starbucks and didn't even know what the heck, I didn't know what was going on. And then, I had to ask questions and they're like, you don't know what's going on, so I think the council should get informed.
Yes, and Mr. Casella has started the email also to notify you of large commercial projects too, and that should help too. And anybody can always call or email me. And any information we have, I'd be happy to share. And if it's in a format that you would like, I would be happy to do that as well.
And so for clarification, what are we doing to help the building permits go up?
So the council approved the residential building fee waivers, which we're going to revisit for this budget cycle. Mr. Casella and I have a meeting with a group that does commercial building plan review, which will help speed things along, hopefully. And I'm looking at changing our staffing for the upcoming fiscal year so that code enforcement is removed from the building official and moved over into a position that does code enforcement and fire inspections, just so we can get a faster turnover. And our City Works program should help inspections and plan review be faster. I'd like to accept online plan review.
Do we have a portfolio that is to help the building permit updates built to where when you have a tire kicker that wants to pull a building permit, that you have a portfolio of why Safford's a great fit for them? Do you have that built in, or you need to make that happen?
That is in the works. Matthew Hoschel and Joan Soto are working on video clips that will go on our website and explain some of the processes to make it easier.
Because Safford is a great place for businesses.
Yes.
And to help building permit.
Yes. And also on that note, as you go through the code while you're reading all 400 pages, if you see issues that you feel inhibit building within the city of Safford, we can always look at those code sections during work sessions also.
Okay, anybody else under this? Thanks, Jamie. FMLA certification process. When I think of FMLA, I think of that song. Guess nobody's gonna get that.
Good
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This short presentation is to clarify processes related to collecting doctor's notes from employees who are taking FMLA leave by addressing what FMLA certification is, when certification is required, what information can be requested on a certification, who can request medical certification, and hopes to clarify that there are no concerns with HIPAA in relation to our current FMLA processes. First, what is FMLA certification? FMLA certification is a medical confirmation that is generally required for employees to take leave per the FMLA. Generally, this is required in the case of an employee or their direct family member sustaining a serious health condition that requires time off from work for caregiving and recuperation. Circumstances when an employer may require a certification are for the employee's own serious health condition, the serious health condition of the employee's parent, spouse, son, or daughter, or military family leave. A complete and sufficient certification need only include the following information: contact information for the healthcare provider, when the serious health condition began, how long the serious health condition is expected to last, if the employee is the patient, whether the employee is unable to attend work, and the likely duration of this inability. If a family member is the patient, whether the family member needs care, and an estimate of the frequency and duration of the leave required to care for the family member. Whether the employee's need for leave is continuous or intermittent, and appropriate medical facts about the condition. Appropriate medical facts. At the health care provider's discretion, the medical facts may include information on symptoms, doctor's visits, or a diagnosis. Whether a diagnosis is included in the certification form is left to the discretion of the healthcare provider, and an employer may not reject a complete and sufficient certification because it lacks a diagnosis. Who can request certification? An HR professional, a leave administrator, or a management official. Under no circumstances, however, may the employee's direct supervisor contact the employee's healthcare provider. According to this presentation and its contents, there are no concerns with how FMLA doctor's notes are being requested. HR is requesting those certifications and processing all leave paperwork. Do you have any questions?
Could you go back one slide, Danielle? So this is just clarification. This is already what we do.
Yes, it is.
And is there concern from employees when they're asked to?
No, there's not.
There hasn't been?
No.
And
nobody likes to do the FMLA paperwork,
right.
But it is required.
And I don't know how to ask this, but do we just request certification every time? Are we consistent with that?
So what the requirement is, or what triggers us to ask for certification, is when they miss more than 3 days of work.
Okay, but that's consistent. Anytime
Right.
it's over 3 days, you request certification.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
All right, then, thank you. Utility Conservation and Educational Outreach Program. You definitely ain't Jennifer.
Mayor and City Council, I apologize. I am not the dynamic Jennifer Bryce that you were hoping to see this evening. Within our 2022-2023 budget, the council approved money for an educational outreach program and utility conservation program. Within that process, we immediately found some opportunities due to information provided by Councilman Lopez that the Tohono O'odham Nation had grants available to the city. We submitted a request in to help support our educational outreach and conservation programs, which we received this past few weeks. We received a $10,000 grant to help us in that process to move that conservation program and educational outreach program forward. So just wanted to bring that information to you and let you know.
Wow, good job,
we're
Arnold.
working towards it.
Jennifer was pretty high on it. I'm still waiting for another too, but Matthew will keep us up to date on that one.
And that's all I have for you this evening, sir.
Well, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, she's real high on it.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I hate to do it, but I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.